about this panel because thinking about the next generation of media trading is really thinking about how the future of independent media is advancing and what that will look like, especially in this period where there are lots and lots of different changes going on in our industry. I think it's really brilliant to be able to bring great people together to share their expertise. And so, as Paul said, I'm Katie Jones. For those of you who don't know me, I run Beeswax's commercial business in Europe, Middle East and Africa. And I'm based in London, where it's just about dark now. So hopefully we've got enough lights on our panelists across Europe. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my panelists because I'm really excited with everyone that we've got joining us today. So I'd like to introduce you in order that we've got here on the slides, and just if you can introduce yourself and just say a little bit about your role in your business. So Fiona, welcome.
Hi, Katie. Lovely to be on the panel today. Thanks for inviting me. I'm Fiona Davis. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Captify. We're a global company, so I'm working across both all of the product and technology side of the house, marketing, our partnerships team, and basically the go-to-market strategy for our whole product and all of the new products that we're bringing to market as well.
Brilliant. Welcome, Fiona. Marino, over to you.
Hi, Katie. Thank you for inviting me to this panel. I am Marino Gualano, co-founder and general manager of MainAd. MainAd was founded in 2008, so we're quite old, 12 years for our industry. And we have a middle and low funnel approach doing prospecting and retargeting. We are tech builder and tech user, so we see from one back end and the other the technology. We're working 40 countries with direct client, media agencies, and media centers.
Brilliant. Welcome, Marino.
Thank you.
Carl, over to you.
Hi there. I'm Carl White. I'm the CEO of Nano Interactive. Started the business 6 years ago with my co-founder, Christian Gaia. We use live signals of intent to target advertising. We raised our Series B 8 days before COVID-19 lockdown, which is quite interesting timing. We've got a brilliant team and I'm really excited to talk about our business.
Brilliant, glad to have you here. And Harriet, welcome. Oh, we've lost your audio entirely. Give us 1 second. Paul, are you still there?
Yes. So I think we need you to unmute the phone component to your audio there. I've sent a request via Zoom to ask to unmute. Maybe I can do it. I can force it.
Does that work any better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Hurrah, hurrah.
Welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Katie, and thanks for inviting me. Hi, everyone. I'm Harriet. I'm the Chief Digital Operations Officer for Omnicom Media Group UK. I've worked at Omnicom for a long time. I've had a series of jobs both in linear, telly, and about 16 years ago moved across to work in digital and worked on all sides, both in the agency and within the central group. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to go straight into our questions then, because I'm really keen that we do talk about this, the future that we're sort of living within the media trading world at the moment. And I'd love to start with a question around how each of your businesses is using programmatic technology to innovate and help with the brands and help the brands that you work with to compete. And Fiona, perhaps you could start us off.
Sure, and I realised I didn't actually say what Captify did at the start as well, Katie, so I'll just incorporate that
right ahead.
Response now. Basically, Captify is the largest independent holder of search intent data outside of Google. And we're basically connecting the real-time searches of about 2 billion people globally. And what we're effectively doing with that data is we're doing full funnel programmatic advertising and real-time insights. So we're trying to help brands acquire more customers. We're trying to help publishers improve their yields, and we're trying to help provide a better consumer experience and a privacy compliant consumer experience. So the way we're kind of using the real changes that have been happening in the market, we're trying to constantly evolve our programmatic product to keep up with market demand around stuff like, CTV streaming has really picked up, obviously, since COVID hit. And so we're trying to provide that capability, not only from an inventory sourcing perspective for clients, but also to be able to provide real-time insights to them around all of the changes in user behaviors. So simple stuff like a lot of our FMCG clients wanting to know how people's buying behaviors changing, what are they searching on, has the funnel changed, has it sped up, has it slowed down, what's happening in that space. And so we're trying to sort of make available to the market all in every media type a programmatic solution for that, and a measurable programmatic solution that performs for them and gives them the right level of data and the right level of insights.
That's interesting. If I can add, I mean, what we do, it's, combining a strategy of building a now solution for most mature clients while investing in our employee skills and stats. So to get the most out of any managed campaign, we believe that focusing only on the tech side of programmatic isn't necessarily the best solution, I guess.
Oh, that's interesting. So that innovation isn't only machine-based, but it's also with the people and the team. Interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that too, Marino, especially around the insight stuff. There's certain things that you need to be providing to clients that are much more reactive and much more brand driven, where they're looking for not just the programmatic solution itself, but also informing their product decisions, their go-to-market strategies, how they're reacting to what's happening in the market in real time, than just literally simply media buying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there is last year, Google published a study conducted by Boston Consulting Group that shows how human skill can increase campaign performance by 15 versus tech alone. In the current scenario, human skill are crucial, I believe.
Not to argue against the human skills in any way, shape, or form, but what we've started to do is use the signals of intent to target advertising. We started with search, so in some respects similar to the starting point that I think Captify might be at, but we've got in a slightly different direction, which is that we use about 15 different signals. They're all live, and we've built up what we call a consumer intent score. And what that does is that directly correlates to the kind of performance of the campaigns. It's dynamic, so it changes with every single campaign. It still looks at the live search data that is coming through, but what it also does is looks at the meaning of the page. And so it's kind of a combination of contextual and search advertising, and then a number of different other factors. And my team laugh at me, but I like to describe it as a graphic equalizer. It's probably my age, but what it means.
Sliders.
Yeah. I get a bit carried away with the physicality of it. But what it means is you can dial up certain things and dial down certain things. So if it's a campaign that requires brand safety as the absolute utmost, then you can dial that up. If it's you need the meaning of the page or the sentiment of the page to be the content to be really important, you can dial that up. And so humans are very important, and I agree with Marino in that. And our team use the tools as effectively as possible. But I think you have to conceptualize new solutions in this world now, and that's what we think we've done.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, to build on that, OMG, definitely our North Star is putting our clients absolutely at the very heart of everything we do, and the way we build our products and work out what's right and wrong. And some like really neat things, we obviously are doing the active media buying and targeting, and really understanding how that sits on both a macro level and a custom-led client level is like super important. So using API technologies to sync into DSPs to understand the best routes and the most effective routes to buy supply, we're seeing that's kind of saving our clients between 20 and 30% across the long tail of publishers, which is a really neat strategy, to very much micro levels where we start to lean in and to go, actually, how can we solve a particular customer problem? But at the heart of everything we do sits kind of that client need and requirement. And just because you can build it and do it doesn't always mean to say it's the right thing to do, which is equally important to be really honest with yourself in terms of, is that additive? Is it actually going to, you know, change the outcome and the performance for our clients and help to support them on their goals?
No, it's really fascinating to hear, because I think it's so easy to get caught up in the technology, and I think focusing back in on that customer need and the outcomes that those brands are trying to drive is always a good leveler to kind of make sure you're doing the right thing. I want to pick back up on something, Fiona, that you mentioned when you opened, but I'd love to dig in with everyone in a little bit more detail around how important using data to provide insights is for brands, because obviously outcomes are very important, but I think that insight can be very powerful. Fiona, do you want to? Can you speak?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Harriet touched on this really well. On the agency side, you have to be prepared to. You're trying to answer a specific client problem every time you're talking to them, and you had like being able to use the data at every level of that conversation is really important. So we, you know, to Carl's point around you're using a whole bunch of different signals. So we have a 10-year-old semantic classification engine that we use for the context of, you know, where those pages are being served, how we're getting access to inventory. But you also have very simple stuff like, we've had brands come to us this year and say, we're not sure that we've actually got the right go-to-market strategy now because all the consumer behavior around us has changed. So can you help us figure out what is going on as opposed to where it was, you know, 6 months ago? And so literally all the way through the funnel. So you're talking to them even at the planning stage, then you're talking to them at the creative ideation stage, then you're talking about, okay, now that we know all this stuff, how about the audience? What kind of audience do we need? Where's the right, what's the type of media you need to be buying? And it's a real iterative process with the client. So it's not just a one size fits all where you just bash out some reports to somebody. You have to actually sit down and consult with them on it. And especially over time, you build that knowledge with the specific client. So you'll be talking to both the agency holding groups, but also the individual clients on exactly what it is they're trying to drive. And we've got a lot closer to the marketing side of the house now, trying to get it to discuss with them what their actual objectives are from a marketing standpoint, and then backing that into, okay, that's great. Now we understand what you're trying to do. This is what is a good media strategy for you. I think it's the expectation from clients, to Marino's earlier point, is that it's not just about just pumping reports out to people now. You've actually got to be able to tell them what the data means and help brands kind of navigate through what is a crazily, constantly adjusting situation at the moment. And also, I mean, one of the things people are leaning on us for a lot now is actually explaining the changes. And I know Carl's going to talk about this a bit later on in the call around what is actually happening in the cookieless world, and explaining to people that you can still use data. It's just not the way you've potentially used it for activation before. So you need to be thinking about lots of different signals, different measurement styles when the third-party cookie goes away. So trying to help people through the process of understanding what data they can still use in the new world order.
It's a great point, actually, because I think it's about finding meaning, isn't it? I think finding meaning from the point of view of insights into the data that you get. But, you know, I mean, we look at that from a kind of a reporting and targeting point of view as well. You know, for us, it's about them, you know, trying to find meaning in the targeting. So rather than just contextual segmentation, what does that actually mean on that page? Two different words can have, in a different contextual situation, can mean something different. And I think that whole area of, I guess, is called entity analysis, is kind of where we're all going now. It's really fascinating, and finding meaning in data is what it's all about, and those insights are essential. And we're all swamping in data, but what does it mean?
Yeah.
So insights are not an Excel. I think everyone's agreed on that so far. Harriet, Marino?
No,
help us find meaning, Harriet.
I was just going to build on that. You know, I think having those, you know, the North Star is what are the clients trying to solve for, and really leaning in and working out what their business challenges are. So kind of quite a neat example of something we did recently. You know, it's not always just about CRM data, but, you know, talking to clients in a broad way in terms of like appointment feed booking data, for example. And you can start to take these different data feeds and assets, you know, into buying platforms to make your buying like a lot smarter. So we did that very recently with a client where we basically integrated their appointment feed data into the buying platform. So we could then start to adjust our bid strategies based on if they had appointments showing, or we could change our creative if all the appointments were full that day, and we could give them the next best option or decide not to save a message. And I think it's, you know, really expanding our minds to think about the types of data that we can bring into the platforms, how we use that. And you know, I honestly think it's really exciting. I think we're right at the start of that journey in many ways. And obviously compliance and privacy is super important, and it has to be done in a very managed and careful way. But the opportunities, you know, when we get it right, you know, can lead to significant, and I mean like 20, 30, 40% improvements in campaign performance and incremental appointment bookings in this instance. It's hugely exciting.
I think you're being very modest. You won an award for this, right? Marino.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, providing actionable insight, it's a kind of crucial part of our job, in particular in a year like this. When part of marketing strategy we create at MainAd is to give monthly white paper that focus on specific verticals, what trends we are seeing in those areas, and which strategy they need to use in achieving their goals. So now more than ever, it's important to go beyond campaigns report, to transform this disruptive year in an opportunity. Our client like to see that we understand their space and we are able to provide effective solution. Sometimes having the gut to challenge the client brief, we need to go behind execution. That's the advertisers want from us, and this is what data enable us to do.
Yes, no, it's. I think we have a lot of consensus here around the importance and increasing importance. I think everyone probably also agrees it's going to continue to grow in importance. There's something else that's been quite visible in the industry that I want to make sure we're talking about. There's obviously some big changes in the programmatic landscape. I'm keen to understand how each of your businesses is sort of responding to change and specifically to sort of increasing focus on control or customization requests from brands. Maybe, Harriet, would you be able to start on that? I know you've done some work in this space.
Yeah. You know, the importance to have more control, insight across the programmatic ecosystem is hugely important. And, you know, I think at Omnicom, we're really proud of the record we have in terms of pioneering programmatic and leaning in. So since 2013, we've had our own engineering team within the programmatic division at Omnicom, which has been like super important to kind of absolutely tirelessly drive for new opportunities and change. And we were doing pretty good. You know, we were pretty pleased. But we got to around 2017, and we've done all of this great architecture around the buy side, which was great. But we suddenly started to do some testing on the sell side, and we began to see, you know, quite a big delta that we couldn't account for. And, you know, back to the North Star of how can we help our clients? How do we bring them with us? How do we work with them? We did this in partnership. We realized we needed to take control of the whole end-to-end programmatic ecosystem. So we worked in partnership with the government client, and we set about completely redefining the approach. So, you know, the new solution we could create, you could track every single penny and every single impression you bought across, you know, buying through to sell side. And that process probably took 18 months for us to go through, to test, to audit. It was a really, really long process. But in April of this year, we launched our OMG Marketplaces product, which is something we're genuinely super proud of. So for clients, it's really helping them to have that control and full customization of actually how they buy, who they buy, a full auditable trail and track in terms of the financials, which is super important. For our publishing partners, it's also really great because, you know, a higher percentage of work in media makes it way to them, so it helps to support quality publishing and journalism. You know, and we've been live now 7 or 8 months, and we already have some clients who are pushing all of their programmatic activation through marketplaces because of the certainty it gives them and the value and insight that gives them, which is huge. So I think that, you know, the need for control and to bring clients with you on that journey and for them to be part of that solution is super important.
That's fascinating, and I think it's exactly as you say. I think anything you can do to help with that need for greater customization and answer those solutions for the brands that you work with is crucial.
It has honestly been a game changer, you know, for clients who say we just want to create these very unique inventory packages, or we just want to work in a certain way, and to have those direct connections with the publishers and to be able to curate the inventory, you know, in that way is genuinely unique. And you know, as we say, it's not just kind of the targeting and contextual control, it's all the way through to the financial audit control as well, which is super important.
Of course. I'm sure other panelists have also had requests in this space.
It's kind of similar actually to what you were just saying, Harriet. For us, it's a lot about the inventory, particularly when, you know, clients are very brand safe sensitive on, and if they're in a particular space where they need to be brand safe sensitive. So we've had a lot more requests around the curated inventory side of the house for sure. But also a big request for us is we have a activation platform that they can either, the traders can log in and use themselves, or they can have us work on it with them. We kind of get a bit of a combination of both, but people wanting to build their own custom audiences. So they'll take one of our existing audiences, and then to Harriet's point, that they might want to onboard their CRM data to match against, then model an audience from that, or they might just want to add multiple audiences together, and they want the ability to do that in real time in the platform to see what that does to their scale and that side of the house. So yeah, we get a lot more requests now for more about the actual data that's available and how can they augment that, and the inventory in particular is a lot more.
From our side, we have a lot of requests, and I guess also ask for activation with out of home, which I know will double in 2020. So we're looking to, you know, partner with partners with that. Connected TV, it's also big as demand. And what is really interesting in the southern part of Europe, where we actually activate more clients, it's this go to digital by small and medium enterprises, which is kind of a blue ocean of opportunity on the wake of COVID-19 crisis. So again, the kind of approach we have is not a one-size-fits-all approach, but, you know, to be nimble and agile and capable of providing value behind our own technology.
There's there's a kind of another trend which I think is very significant, and it's a bit of an elephant in the room. I mean, transparency is important. I would, having had 20 years of building ad networks and working for different businesses in the space, I think that it kind of goes in fashion, in kind of trends. But what I would say is that kind of transparency seems to continue to grow in importance. But I think there's another area that's really important, and that is with the deprecation of the third-party cookie, CPMs are dropping. Publishers have got a bit of, you know, certain publishers, certainly long-tail publishers, have got a bit of an existential crisis. I think that they don't necessarily know how they're going to kind of overcome that. The walled gardens are taking significantly bigger shares of the revenue. And, you know, all of those things are pointing to publishers needing solutions from the kind of independent sector like ourselves to support them. And I think identity solutions aren't necessarily the whole of the answer. And I think, you know, kind of publisher side solutions, first party solutions aren't all of the answer. So I think what we have to do is support the publisher community and find ways of making their content valuable again if we want to have a viable internet. Otherwise, we'll all be kind of taken over by the walled gardens.
So, Carl, can I ask you just to tell us a little bit more about how you're addressing the issue of the cookie apocalypse, as we call it at Beeswax?
Yeah, I mean, in in that particular area, as it relates to the publishers, then I mean, what we're doing, because we're using zero tracking, so we don't have historic segments. We're looking at live data in the moment, and what that means is that we're able to look at every given ad request and add value back to, as I mentioned earlier, the context and the meaning of what you're seeing editorially. What that means is the kind of anywhere between, I mean, it depends who you speak to, but anywhere between 30 and 50% of the web, and particularly the kind of long tail publishers, have gone dark as a result of the deprecation of the cookie. They're not the kind of publishers who are going to get email identity solutions working for them. They're not the kind of publishers who are going to have a low-to-me or a permutive or a significant expensed kind of first-party cookie solution. And so what we're doing by using, as I say, these kind of 15 different signals and scoring them, is we're giving publishers a way of monetizing that content that otherwise will go away and has gone away, and is one of the reasons why the CPMs have dropped. So for us, it's a really, really important part of our strategy to build that publisher community. And it's really, really important. It's really important that we're able to demonstrate to them that we're on their side.
Yeah, I'd agree with that too, Katie. And I think that to Carl's point about it's still changing now, like even the privacy legislation in Europe will continue to evolve. And so you're right, we don't believe there's any one size fits all for our clients, and different clients have different risk profile levels about what data they're prepared to use. There are some clients who will flat out say, we will not use identity in any format, and are only interested in a contextual solution. And you have other clients who have a huge first party network themselves, and they only want to activate against their own known audience. And so they're looking at identity based solutions. And we believe we need to have a resolution for all of those scenarios, but we believe that the future is going to be in matching that intent data with contextual and providing both. So you've still got the scale and the reach, but you're not necessarily reliant on, we don't think that you're going to get to 100% logged in users anytime soon across, the globe, but that's certainly a trend that's happening now. So you have to be able to resolve for all of those scenarios. And also you're going to be prepared for Google's the cohorts solution that's coming at some point when the APIs are made available to everybody to build against. But then we're also going to have a solution for that and be able to activate in that environment as well. And also be able to explain to people not only how that works, but how that backs into your own product. So it's kind of like the ground is shifting under all of the companies at the same time. And we're trying to take a very holistic approach to, we have to have a solution for every one of these scenarios.
But what's really interesting, I think IAS did a really good piece of research on this. They asked questions relating to privacy, and I think something like 61% of internet users were happy to trade the relevance of the advertising on the page for not having to give up their personal data. It's something like 94% of them said that they, that they didn't want ads to utilize their privacy at all. So there's a massive area that the industry is almost blindsiding as a general rule. There's a rush towards identity solutions, and there's a rush towards everyone's going, yeah, email is the way to do it.
Yeah,
but users don't like it, and we have to wake up as an industry to that fact.
Yeah.
I think it's to your point though, Carlos, but it's comes back to what is the use case for that particular situation. So in some cases where you've got a full closed loop for that client, they have the capacity to do full identity, and that's what they want to work off of, because they've got the consent and they own that relationship. Yeah. And that's fine. Absolutely. It's where people start to get nervous is where they don't own the relationship and they're trying to activate off of other people's identity. And that's where they want comfort from companies like us to say, what are the solutions available to you where you can still get that same addressability and reach and, and then the right context, right place, right time without, killing my current campaign performance.
Agreed.
Yeah. From our side, we rely on mostly on beeswax, which is surely ahead in the DSP. We do not have.
I'm not paying him for this.
I know, it's not paid, but no, this is because somebody has to set a standard, and we are kind of beta testing for a lot of like LiveRAM through beeswax and the law. Google solution on DV360, LiveRammer Logical, which is our own technology. It's it's a kind of magic moment for this topic in the industry. We don't want to get, to stack on one solution. It's kind of nice to see how the different technology is evolving. And we like transparent for that because, we rely on third-party technology. But yeah, that's very, clients appreciate when you give them more than one answer.
Yeah.
I must admit, I agree with Harriet that, I like control. With our stack, we've kind of built an end-to-end stack. We haven't worked with beeswax yet, so I can't flatter you regarding that, but maybe one day, who knows. But, we like the control of having the end-to-end stack as well. I think that, it's really good to be fully accountable to clients and to know what's going on at every step of the way. And so I entirely agree with kind of Harriet's position on that. I can understand from an agency why you would want that transparency.
Yeah, and Harriet, you talked about consent as well, like the whole, that's so important because we have got such a broad first-party publisher network. We have to be totally buttoned up on how that data is being collected, making sure the right consent signals are being passed through to be able to even use that stuff. And I think as an industry, we have to be very hardcore about that and be supporting what is the right thing to do to make sure that we're kind of removing some of that opaqueness from our industry and kind of supporting the overall privacy first, and the consumer's consent needs to come first as well.
Yeah, I completely agree, Fiona. And being really clear with clients, in terms of the risks, because clients are different in terms of the risks that they are happy to work with. It is really kind of unique to each client. And just having really clear conversations with them, because ultimately they are, they have to make that decision. But giving them the guardrails to make that in a measured right way for their business is really important. And incumbent on us all to do that. It is hugely challenging. And, we talk around, the opportunities of some server-to-server integrations and what that means, and contextual, and actually how all of these things, as you say, build up to, deliver campaign performance and maintain it and accelerate it moving forwards is kind of what we need to test and learn and lean into.
I want to very quickly remind the audience that there is the Q&A functionality. I've got 2 more questions I'm really keen to ask our panelists, but do feel free to pop your questions in the Q&A box, and we'll come to those in just a few short minutes. But Marino, I want to come back to something that you talked about earlier on in the conversation, and so I'm keen to as someone who traded in their past, in a little way ago now, but I'm really keen to hear more about some of the traded tools that and techniques that each of the panelists have sort of put in place for success, and how you think those are evolving and will continue to evolve as automation grows and increases. Marino, could you kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, Cuddy, we were born as a, bidder with DSP capability, active in retargeting space. That was our, proposition and positioning. Now we are like kind of transitioned toward an independent trading desk model where our proprietary tech isn't the core offer, but one of the solutions that we provide and can be used based on the client's objective. Because we believe that we need to partner with our client and make every penny of their investment count, which means that we need to be part of a broader strategy to make an impact. That has also led us to change in the type of campaign we ran. We used to do retargeting only, while we now do work on prospecting phase 2, which has a relevant impact on retargeting bit as well. For instance, we run campaigns using the lookalike audience created on first-party data collected through our pixel in the client's website on our prospecting campaigns. So since the increased need for control and customization has led to the widespread adoption of in-house and hybrid models, we decided to invest in solutions that could be the answer of this kind of needs. an increased maturity of the programmatic industry has determined a higher level of skills available on the market. So our strategy is to pivot on powering our tech and go toward a bid as a service model on one side, and to boost our staff skill set with training, certification, and new hiring. Ultimately, what we offer is a cross-media programmatic platform with a full funnel approach, and testing something new also on third-party technology. For instance, Google has chosen us to use the custom bidding, which is released on DV360 in August 2020. And we are seeing that very promising, with very promising results.
Yeah. I think you make a really good point, Marino. You know, the pace of change within the native platforms is so fast, like the number of feature releases, the opportunities. It has to be a blend of absolutely investing in your teams and your people to make sure you give them time to learn, and you use that. You know, we're fortunate we've got a lot of traders, so we can share those learnings, and actually forcing teams to come together and proving best practice and feature adoption and what it actually delivered is kind of really key. I do think it's like a multi-strategy approach to getting this right. So certainly, you know, leaning into native platform features, certainly building proprietary technologies as required that bring things together and help to accelerate those. And one area that we've found has been really really successful is actually working in partnership with technology companies, and actually our teams being within those tech roadmaps and part of those tech boards. So, you know, we provide the role then of giving the customer feedback and you know, hands-on keyboard activation experience, but really knowing what we need to solve for and actually being able to influence roadmaps. So the likes of, you know, accelerating omni-channel activation and the benefits that can unlock for clients, for example, has been a really good strategy that we've helped to drive better efficiency from you know, Omnicom side and from client side, and better sharing of data and frequency management. So, you know, I think it is a multi-layered approach, but keeping your teams up to speed on, you know, multiple platforms and opportunities really has to sit at the heart of what we do and how we make the most of the programmatic features and kind of progress that is
I'm going to have to go back to my graphic equalizer, I'm afraid. You know, the idea of giving someone control and giving someone the ability to play with that, you know, if you like your base up high, you know, then we're going to let you do that. And I think that that's critical moving forward. The other thing that I think is going to become really important is kind of finding new metrics of measurement. So one that we're really getting, you know, really excited about is the kind of impact of what we call brand interaction time. But what it is effectively is, you know, for a certain percentage of viewability for an ad, how many seconds is that ad either played or viewed, and then what is the direct impact on whatever the brand metric is you're trying to get an uplift on, and combining that research with that really focused kind of brand interaction measure, we're getting some really fascinating results. And we think that there'll be an evolution of some of these new measures which will help brand advertise, you know, click-through rate, come on, give me a break. You know, there are some much more exciting things than that that I think we can all as independent tech developers build.
I think we're definitely seeing the same trend as well, but like much more towards the brand level metrics and actual brand impact, like whether it's straight lift, brand awareness lift, or, you know, conversions back to a client site, whatever it is, it's very much about that outcomes rather than proxy metrics. And I think there's more and more pressure to get there. As the ecosystem is resetting without the third-party cookie, we're having to redress this now anyway. So it's coming up more and more. And exactly. I agree with what you were saying, Marino and Harriet, around that's the strategy around providing optionality for the traders. Like, we have our own tech stack, but we're integrating with the whole ecosystem. So if someone wants to trade through XSSP, we can make it available to them there. If they want to be trading through the Trade Desk or AppNexus, wherever, we trying to make the same tool set available in every environment so that the person who's running it can dictate that. And I think that's absolutely critical now, where, you know, big brands, they've already dictated to their own partners which tech vendors they want to use. So if you're not making your product available through that platform, then you're dead in the water. So we kind of have to be in that situation. And also we're just trying to remove the friction for people to use a programmatic product. Like the more you make it easily available and easily usable, the more likely people are to adopt it. So I think it's going to be critical for all of us.
Yeah, also, Caddy, I have seen, just getting what Fiona said, there isn't a question from the audience. They say, with advanced optimization.
We'll come to those in just 1 minute, if that's okay. I want to quickly ask the final question, but we have to go quickly on the next question first, so we have time for these questions from the audience, if that's okay. Marino.
Yeah, absolutely.
But, I do want to know, what does so no more than 30 seconds, so we have enough time for our audience questions, but what does the future hold for each of your businesses? Is all advertising going to be digital? If so, will it all be transacted programmatically?
Good question.
Yeah.
Never say all, because sometimes trends are going back. But yeah, absolutely. I guess that reaching on a multi-channel, including audio and out-of-home display and video, is absolutely crucial. And
I think maybe it's a question as well, Katie, of like, how much of it is transacted through a programmatic channel versus how is it bought? Because we have a lot of clients who will, you've still got digital upfronts happening where people are buying in an offline environment, but the actual execution ends up being through a programmatic channel. So it's slightly more nuanced than that. But I mean, we have loads of clients today who are still buying direct, and a load of publishers who don't make some of their most premium inventory available via programmatic channels at all, unless it's pre-bought guaranteed media buys. So there's quite a bit of nuance in that, yes, there's a load of media being transacted programmatically today and we're all seeing it, but not everything's coming through a programmatic channel.
It's a good point that's often missed, Fiona. Thank you.
Yeah. So soup to nuts, probably not, but how much of it's transacted ultimately in programmatic? Quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think as technology providers, sorry, Harriet, go on.
No, go, Carl.
No, I was just going to say, as technology providers, we've got a chance to kind of innovate as well. I think that, we sometimes, accept the situation, and programmatic has become this kind of huge engine. But in fact, you can make real differences real quickly in our industry. And I think if you come up with ways of doing it, then I think that's an opportunity. I do think there's a short term, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's a short term challenge, which is, the kind of walled garden threat. I think it's not a coincidence that all the changes that are happening give them an advantage. And I think the best way we can defeat that is innovation.
Harriet, anything else for the future?
I mean, obviously, omni-channel is live and happening and real and accelerating. And I don't think it'll ever be all, but I do think we're moving quickly. And for me, really interesting is what's going to happen with AV. In the UK, it's a £5 billion industry. We see the broadcasters leaning in massively, either with their own platforms or working with different platforms, and definitely enabling much more data-driven targeting. So I think what's going to be fascinating to watch is how clients start to experiment, certainly in AV, and how that knits in. It's never really been, the frequency management control, if that is allowed to happen by the broadcasters. And the experiments of actually data-driven versus low cost, high 1+ reach, how does that sit for different categories and different brands? And I think the experiments that are going to be played out there are going to be really exciting and interesting.
I was going to say, Katie, the other change that we've definitely seen, I'm sure you guys would have as well, is how programmatic fits into the overall buying strategy now has changed. Where it once was, very transactional, it's now considered to be part of the overall brand strategy and needs to be much more integrated into the overall planning. And even like at a creative level, we're getting a lot more requests now to be involved in the creative ideation process based on the data that we have. So starting with the data, backing into a creative strategy, and then programmatic execution. So I think the way programmatic has been integrated into the full funnel now is quite different to how it was being transacted a few years ago.
We're already living in the future.
Yes.
Yeah. So Paul, are you still there with us?
Of course.
I was able to pull up the questions, but I think you can go ahead and kick us off with our questions from our brilliant audience.
Absolutely. I finally get my screen time. Yeah, thank you, panelists. This was awesome. So let's dive right into the questions. Starting with advanced optimization strategies enabling more automation, are traders taking on more responsibility than before? That's a great question.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was the one I wanted to answer before.
That's the one you
want. No, because it was exactly like an idea taken from Fiona. Statement. I mean, it's not about educating the clients, but giving them, a fully transparent, set of tools we can work together to choose what is better for their campaigns to work with. So it's, I mean, transparency. It's about also, if the clients wants to be educated. This is what we are ultimately doing now, giving them all the opportunity that we have on the market.
I think it's a really good point, and I think with our clients, they have read access, reporting access, or reporting access to our VSPs, so they can see exactly the targeting strategies, what's working in real time, and the very best work we do, I think, is where we are completely engaged with the client, and we talk in detail around the audiences, the inventory, and go through actually what changes have been made in that week, what's driving that performance, and relating that back to kind of their wider business challenges. So I think the trend for us has definitely been for clients to want to talk to the actual hands-on keyboard activators directly. That has definitely accelerated in the last 3 years and made us change our structures and the way we were, so we could really enable that information and kind of strategies to be shared with clients more easily, and that's delivered really good results. And then also as an industry, I genuinely think how we talk about stuff and how we keep it simple. Programmatic isn't that complicated, but there are a few different moving cogs, so we can do a great job of overcomplicating it, right? So again, just keeping the language simple, taking clients with us on that journey, and keep them talking around. It's just inventory, and it's just targeting strategies and audiences and performance, and that really, I think, takes us a long way.
I think that's spot on, because we've got this mantra where we've ditched all the PowerPoints, we've ditched all the presentations for our sales team, and it's literally a live demo. Take the demo into the client and show them what it does, make changes, and demonstrate that it works live. And when you do that, you get straightforward conversations, and it's kind of, we do have a tendency to kind of over elaborate if we don't do that, and that's being polite.
I think that actually the expectation of traders, to what you guys are saying, is as you get more deeply involved with each client and their traders get used to using your tools, they're asking different questions. So as they get more comfortable with what's there, they're asking more in a consulting capacity to the people that have got their hands on the keys, saying, well, how would you manage this particular campaign? What type of inventory would you buy? What kind of price point are you going to put on this? What is the best approach to me? And so it's much more collaborative back and forth than where it was, previously, where someone would just outsource an entire managed campaign. Now you've got clients taking that in-house, but there's varying levels of skills at any one point in time. And so they'll lean into the trader on our side, depending on where they're at that point in time. So yeah, it's definitely
a really good point. And that actually mirrors something we see a lot at Beeswax. I think historically, even going back just a couple of years, to be a really good trader and to be able to pull out really valuable insights, you needed to have data science capabilities. You needed to know some SQL to be able to interrogate log files and so on. And I think there's been such a leap forward. When we're talking about the increase in automation, there's been such a huge leap forward in terms of data visualization. That it is, I mean, those are still great skill sets. I'm not saying a trader shouldn't have them, but it is much easier for someone who's maybe not had a data science background to pull out learnings and insights as well. I think it's that certainly at Beeswax, we've invested a lot in making it much easier to do quite complicated things.
Yeah,
that way.
Absolutely.
Great question from the audience.
All right, next question. I think this will be another good one that'll involve lots of answers. So this might be our last question. Let's see, because I don't want to cut anybody short. Questions for agency folk. What are the techniques being tested to replace measurement and attribution post-cookie?
I'm going to have a crack at that one. There's loads, right? So interestingly enough, a lot of what is being bought now is actually not cookie based in the first place. So a lot of the measurement for around CTV, for instance, and audio it's not cookie based anyway. So there's already existing challenges in that space of how that's being solved with the various partners in that space. But in terms of the long-term, like straight replacement that Google is currently trotting out post third-party cookie is the usual last touch attribution model, which as part of like the web consortium with Chromium, no one is agreeing with right now. So that is under great debate right now that they will eventually get to a good solution that doesn't involve just last touch attribution. But I think there's lots of different signals that you can use beyond just a straight, click or conversion. So a lot of the time you already have solutions available on the first party side for being able to track an actual conversion on the client side, which I think is what Marino was talking about. That doesn't go away in this world order. We're still able to do exactly the same thing. I think the difference is going to be on campaign tracking itself and being able to track against both brand level metrics, brand lift type metrics, but also having a replacement for that current third-party conversion pixel. So there will be a solution to that, whether or not Google manages to mandate that it's their solution or whether there'll be the capacity for multiple providers to be allowed in that new environment is still up for debate, where I'm willing to bet that there'll be multiple partners placed into that environment like there has been with the third-party cookie measurement, because I can't see a way,
exactly,
especially with the Google's antitrust situation happening in the US, that they're not going to be able to allow multiple third-party vendors to, not mark, as in someone else mark Google's homework for them. Did that answer the question?
Yes. Anyone else have comments on that?
I think it's worth just purely calling out as well that obviously measurement attribution, we tend to think about it around those performance metrics. For certain other brands, it can just be around tracking unique reach and frequency. And there are a lot of panel-based solutions that work very well for that and will continue to work, whether you're looking at Comscore VCE or Nielsen DAR, those, besides where we're already operating in those cookieless environments, we quite often will see brands that we work with and partners that we work with using those third-party tools to, measure unique reach. It's something, I forget who meant, I think Fiona, maybe you mentioned that sort of FMCG brands might have different priorities here to someone with an online conversion tracking capability. And
exactly, and typically the reason why we've had those kind of proxy metrics in the digital space in the past is because they haven't got closed loop measurement around things like purchase cycles. So where there is purchase cycle capability available, obviously you're going to go with a full closed loop measurement if you can, like in a bank. But if you can't, you're looking for something to replace that. And typically in the past, it's been horrible metrics like, CPCs and stuff like that versus an actual landing conversion or a brand level metric, view through rates on a video, that type of stuff. You'll still be able to measure some of those more rich engagement type metrics. It's going to be that more pure conversion based third party campaign one that needs to be replaced.
And and that's exactly right. And the rich engagement metrics are what have driven the kind of broadcast media and other media for decades. And, to a certain extent, some of the kind of more straightforward metrics made us a victim of our own success as an industry, and became a self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that broadening that out and accepting that it's a change rather than necessarily a poorer situation or a poorer outcome, I think is important.
Yeah, and on that note, we are just about out of time. So Katie, I want to thank you for hosting this webinar. I want to thank all of our panelists and of course, all of you for joining us. If we didn't get to your question, we'll certainly pass it along to the panelist it was intended for, and they can answer you directly via email. So once again, thanks for tuning in. We hope everybody is staying safe. A recording of this webinar will be made available on our YouTube channel shortly, and we'll email it to anyone who had registered. So if you missed a part, don't worry, you can see the whole thing. So until next time, thank you on behalf of all of Beeswax, myself, and all the panelists, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.